Joining us right now, a friend of the program and niece of Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Alveda King. Dr. King, good to see you.
Good morning, Maria and viewers. Hello, everybody.
We are happy you are here this morning on such a momentous day. What did you think of President Obama's farewell address last night?
As I viewed the speech, those with me were having so many emotions. And as I viewed it, I thought about history. And I know that going forward, when people see that speech, it was a great speech. And so without any research, it was a speech that left us feeling pretty good. But I thought about it, and we'll remember many of the things that happened and did not happen. And that was the way that I took the speech. But I thought it was a pretty good speech, yeah.
You know, first of all, I know coming up is Martin Luther King Day coming up, so I just want to pay our respects
on Monday.
So
thank you so much. Absolutely.
You know, I would agree with you. Last night, you know, I went into it thinking, oh my God, it's going to be a bit melancholy, but I left it feeling quite spirited, and I like that he wasn't really taking shots. He took a few ideas and themes that he wants to make sure continue, like climate change and immigration. And I also think that he didn't, you know, challenge, you know, Trump in any real way. Actually, when President-elect Trump the aura came up, he said, no, you know, we have to pass it with a peaceful transfer. And like Maria said, I was with him this weekend, and I think one thing is so true. When you're president, you run as fast as you can, and then when your time's up, you pass the baton. And you got to make sure it's a clean pass off.
Well, one thing that struck me was, you know, he was trying to inspire or empower young people. I mean, he said a number of times, organize. He said, lace up your shoes, grab a clipboard. He was trying to speak to a portion of the population to get them to run for office, organize. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that's consistent with how he's been running in his modus operandi for the last 4 years. He's consistently said that, especially if you look at the DNC convention. He was saying if you want something, do something about it, vote. He's always had a cool temperament, and so he's always come across well. Remember when, you know, he had the beer with the plumber and, you know, kind of that whole situation, and he's a cool guy that you want to be around, so he relates to the younger generation.
I was thinking of Dagan. I'm like, what do Dagan thinks about this?
I want to jump in on that one if you let me, because the transition and the talking to the millennials, I think that is very important, and we all need to give the millennials something to look forward to, so we have to encourage the millennials. However, I watched a movie over the weekend, Hidden Figures, no profanity, no anger, no hostility, and yet these 3 African-American women have given us so much. Okay, so a form of employment went away. And so they learned Fortran, they learned new things about computers. They went to school and they did better. So there are some real good messages, and I noticed that the president did address the millennials. I think that's very good. Yeah. But there's so much that we all have to do. We need to roll up our sleeves and help. We really do.
He said that in part because the Democratic Party is in rubble. Whoever you want to blame for that, but the Democrats had a net loss of 1,042 seats. That's state and federal Democratic posts. And then
governorships as well.
In the state houses, they are, I guess, at the lowest level that they have been since the Civil War. And so I thought that you watched this speech, and it is the 2 sides of President Obama that you saw, the one with the soaring rhetoric, the great speaker, but also who implemented policies in this country that alienated a lot of voters, and that's what you saw play out in November.
Did not help. The health care factor, as a matter of fact, and there's so much that's going to have to be done with health care, for example. The racial issues are going to have to be dealt with. And so that's what I paid attention to, what was said, and it was beautifully said, but I was remembering what was not said at the same time.
I didn't love the fact that he wasn't looking straight at the camera, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I recognize there was a lot of energy in the room, but I felt that he was speaking to Chicago, you know, rather than speaking straight on to the American people. Did you notice that?
I noticed that. I did, and I said to those who were viewing with me, I said, he's going here, and he's going here. And so we've got to see what the rest of us are going to do as well. I did notice that.
Yeah.
Just to final touch on the millennial thing, you know, I'm honored to be on the Obama Foundation, and it will start, you know, for the most part, January 21st. And I think that part of the foundation will be the outreach to millennials. It will be very programmatic, and we'll be trying to get people engaged.
And he said that. He said that.
Well, I actually said that to some people. I overheard somebody, I mentioned this on the air last week, saying Inauguration Day, that's the day the world comes to an end. And it was a stranger, and I spoke up, and I said, you gotta be kidding me. And I said, if you don't like what's happening in Washington, then go out and do something yourself and think about somebody else other than yourself. And I think that he's speaking to the base, the Democratic base. It's like, if you're unhappy with what happened in November, then you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
And that's what he said. Grab a clipboard, lace up
Stop
your shoes.
complaining.
Go organize. All right, let's talk about the confirmation hearing. Senator Jeff Sessions testified yesterday at the Senate confirmation hearing as Trump's nominee for Attorney General. Now, there were protesters. They interrupted the hearing multiple times, calling out Sessions for accusations of racially insensitive comments. Sessions addressed those allegations. Listen to this.
I was accused in 1986 of failing to protect the voting rights of African Americans by presenting the Perry County case, the voter fraud case, and of condemning civil rights advocates and organizations, and even harboring, amazingly, sympathies for the KKK. These are damnably false charges.
Now, today, Senator Cory Booker is going to testify. He said he's going to testify against Sessions. This is historically unprecedented. Booker will be the first sitting senator to speak against another sitting senator during a confirmation hearing. Dr. King, your take on this?
I would like to weigh in on that. Some of my very good friends, there was a powerful press conference on behalf of Senator Sessions in D.C. this week. And Bishop Jim Lowe, Reverend Dean Nelson, Reverend Derek McCoy, many of us have examined the records of Senator Sessions and his work to prosecute the Ku Klux Klan, to desegregate schools in Alabama. All of that is kind of being glossed over. So if there's nothing else that they can target him with, the race card is being played.
Yeah.
But I would like to play a card that says that this is a man that has done things to advance justice in America, and I want America to really take note of that.
Yeah, that's right. And there are a lot of talk that much of this has been, in many cases, inaccurate, Robert Wolf.
Yeah, I mean,
these accusations. Inaccurate.
Listen, I'm not familiar with Senator Sessions. It's clear that he's going to pass. Yesterday you had a moderate, Susan Collins. You had a Democrat, Joe Manchin, support him. I think today will be kind of interesting with both with both John Lewis and Cory Booker speaking, but he will pass.
Worked with Senator Jeff Sessions to get the Congressional Gold Medal to the marchers in Selma, Alabama. They worked together on it, and he spoke very glowingly of Senator Sessions then, and now today, hypocrisy.
And a lot of people feel like Cory Booker has his own ideas of where he's going in the future, and maybe this is part of that.
You mean a political agenda?
That, maybe he is the Democrats' Barack Obama, frankly. Dr. Alveda King, it's always a pleasure and honor to see you. Thanks very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a good day.
We appreciate it. We will see you soon. And of course, stay tuned with us today, because at 11 a.m. Eastern, we are bringing you live coverage of President-elect Donald Trump's news conference. That'll be live this morning on Fox Business Network at 11 a.m. Short break. We'll be right back. Lots to come. Stay with us.